So, it's a new day for me. In the last video, I left off at the mention of the practice of vipassana, or clear-seeing meditation. And it's to see that physical pain has the same nature as all the other objects of consciousness, including our thoughts, feelings, and outer perceptions, as I've argued in previous videos. And what that same nature is that there are three characteristics that are attributable to all phenomena that's experienced within consciousness. And so these are called the three characteristics, or the three marks of existence. And they're usually referred to as suffering, impermanence, and non-self. But I'm going to use the words, suffering, transience, and essencelessness. And I would say that seeing these three qualities, in particular the essencelessness of all phenomena, is one and the same as practicing the middle way. Let me continue reading this. So this also isn't to say that one should deny physical remedies. For example, if one has a physical ailment, this isn't an argument to say we should reject physical remedies. Instead, the person sort of residing in the view of the middle way would simply think of the physical remedy as arriving as part of a larger remedy. Now, if I were speaking in the Judeo-Christian tradition, I would have capitalized the word larger remedy, in which case that would refer to something like the great doctor, capitalized, which would basically be a pseudonym for God. So the physical remedies arrive as part of the larger remedy, as part of sort of God's cure. But from the middle path, one could say, it's kind of a similar type of interpretation, but that the physical remedy arrives. We're living in this dreamlike reality, and so whether it comes in the form of a physical remedy or some other form, it's just a remedy. And it need not be particular to physical form, but it could be in that form. So I'll pause there. I'll make a comment about the three characteristics. So if one examines any phenomena, one can find a tinge or thread of suffering in it. So this is clear when we're actually in pain. But let's say we're bored. Well, boredom has some suffering involved. Let's suppose it's something pleasurable, like eating our favorite cake. Even the eating of a cake, if one examines that experience carefully, one will find a certain level of dissatisfaction or suffering, a knowing and awareness that this experience will end, for example, or that this experience may come with certain consequences that one doesn't want, which creates its own suffering. So that's the first characteristic. The second is transience or impermanence. I'm actually taking out my tea bag out of my cup, so that's why I'm looking away. Anyway, and that, I think that's pretty clear, at least intellectually, that there's no experience that we can have. There's no thought, feeling, inner sensation, or outer perception that we can experience that's permanent. Everything arises and sort of fades away in one form or another. And so that's the second characteristic. And the third I've termed essencelessness. And that's similar to the earlier argument that I sort of delineated using the migraine as an example. So even something as seemingly solid as a migraine, if we look for it, we can't find some essential thing called a migraine where we say, oh, this is the migraine. Yeah, it just kind of moves, blobs up and down, kind of arises, dissipates, comes and goes. And so we say that is essencelessness. Sometimes the word emptiness is used in its place. So these are the three characteristics. And so when we're attuned to these three qualities, we're more likely to be practicing the middle way, as in viewing the world through this lens that then allows for things to move and to breathe, rather than when we conceptualize and reify things into solid things, we don't allow as much wiggle room. So it's not that we control the universe, but it's more that we shape our perception and experience of what we perceive to be the universe. And so, for example, if we're suffering from some physical malady, for example, perhaps an Excedrin solves the problem. But if we're open to the fact that the physical pain is simply a phenomena of consciousness, just like a thought is, we can be open to the thought that, maybe there are other ways in which this migraine could simply disappear by itself. So I want to give an example. So sometimes I think, I believe this is a fairly universal example, but I believe many of us have experienced this phenomena where we're basically kind of down and compressed and not feeling good about ourselves or whatever it may be. And then we encounter someone else who's worse off than us. And as soon as the apperception that, oh, there's someone here that's worse off than us, as soon as that apperception takes place, or the recognition takes place, for a lot of us, there's a sense in which all our problems suddenly kind of almost disappear in that moment. It's not that we've suppressed it or pushed it away. It's almost like, oh, I guess I don't have all the problems that I thought I had. This person's got it 1,000 times worse. And I want to explain that phenomena. And the phenomena, oh, now someone's washing a window behind me. So the phenomena is this, that any emotional state, and I'll argue anything, in fact, any physical pain, any outer perception, any belief, it requires a certain bolstering, a certain support. And when that support is removed, in this case, the emotional state can't sustain itself. It's a little bit like if you make a little campfire with some wood, that fire is going. One way to get the fire out is to extinguish it with water or suffocate the fire, but another way is to remove any of the causes and conditions that are necessary for that fire to exist. So suffocating it actually is a way of removing oxygen. Without oxygen, the fire can't exist, so the fire will cease by itself. But a plainer way of thinking about it is we can just remove the wood. If we were to remove the wood, the fire will not be able to continue, because burning material is one of the causes and conditions that's necessary for a fire to exist. And that is meant to be an analogy for all phenomena. All phenomena require causes and conditions to bolster them. For example, I believe that it's been documented or published in research that anger, I think, lasts somewhere between 10 to 15 seconds. 5 to 15 seconds. That's how long anger actually lasts. But most of us, when we have anger, we're not done with anger in 10 seconds, for example. For most of us, it lasts at least 20, 30 seconds, if not minutes or hours, depending on where we're at with the anger. And so the question is, why does the anger actually continue? It's because we have a lot of wood that we're supplying for the fire of anger, for that fire to keep going. All right, this sound is a little annoying, so I'm going to pause this video right here and start it a few minutes later.